Around 3 months ago, I arrived at college just like every morning, and I sat down on a bench before class. I was waiting for my friends to arrive and have a quick chat before a rough day of studying. I was always the first to show up, and then my friends Matt and Michelle came. It was usually just us, but since I started dating Darcy, she would also often join us. That morning was normal. Just the four of us eating something quick before class and messing around. Now, Michelle and I shared many of the same classes, but Matt and Darcy studied something completely different, so we only saw each other during breaks. Before the bell rang and classes started, a guy who was in some of my other classes passed by and said hi to us. It was a bit weird because we really didn't speak. However, this time, he approached me and asked me, what did I buy at the comic book shop? And I was a bit confused. I did frequent it, but I hadn't been there in months. He proceeded to explain that he saw me coming out of there during the weekend. And now, confused as hell, I explained to him it might have been someone else because I didn't go there on Saturday. And he apologized quickly with a, "Oh, sorry man, he looked completely like you." My friends and I didn't give it too much importance. After all, things like that seem to happen all the time. Now, the next week while I was in class, I had a friend asking me if I had been downtown that weekend, but I hadn't. I'd been with Darcy watching movies at her house. Netflix and chill, that kind of thing. He went on to telling me the same thing that the other guy did. He said he'd seen someone who looked awfully familiar to me. Now, I thought this was interesting. Even though it's normal to hear that people confuse you or that they saw somebody who looked like you, the fact that it happened 2 weekends straight was kind of funny. And that was the last thing I heard for about 2 weeks. Until one day a guy called Gary Stratford, who was a well-known person in college, a top football player, he came to me as I was having lunch with my friends. He loudly pat me on the shoulder as he screamed, "Cam, my man, what is up?" Now, my friends and I were so surprised. I don't think I ever spoke to Gary. I'd only seen him. And now I didn't know what all this was about, but I didn't want to seem rude, so I shyly answered as I was fine. And he said, "Good to hear, my man. See you around, okay?" And he left. My friends and I wondered what on earth had happened, but we couldn't totally figure it out. The rest of the day everything was fine, but the next day was also strange, and not because of something someone said. The next day after this whole Gary incident, I finished classes at 4 p.m., then decided to go home. I normally rode my bike since it was only a 15-minute ride, and at first everything went normal, but in the middle of my way home, I started noticing a car was going exactly the same direction as I was. And now I started paying attention to this car to make sure I wasn't being chased. But as the moments passed, it was clear this car had been following me. So I decided to take a shortcut in order to lose it. It seemed to work. However, I was extremely nervous, wondering why I was being followed and who was doing it. I told my family and friends about it once I got home, but since nothing really happened, we thought it was not necessary to report it or to do anything. And the next day after class, I went out with Darcy to the mall, and after hanging there for a while, we decided to leave. Darcy took me home in her car. While we were at the mall, I just couldn't relax. I kept feeling that I was being watched, even though there was nothing in particular that either Darcy or I saw suspicious. So we just thought maybe I was just acting paranoid because of the day before. When I got home, I took my bike out of Darcy's car and put it in my backyard just like I always did, and then I got in through the back door. The next day, as I was about to leave my house to go to college, I found that my bike was gone. I searched all over the house like a madman, And my sister also helped me, but it was gone. It was just completely gone. Someone must have stolen it during the night. Because of that, I had to start walking to college for like a week or so until Matt started to give me rides. And after the bike incident, I thought the weird events had just blown over. But last month, they started happening again. One day, Matt and I were just hanging out, and a group of girls came to say hi. I'd never seen them before, but they were acting very flirty towards me, and they knew my name. They started saying how much they had enjoyed the weekend, and how they were looking forward to spend more time with me. And, well, I didn't even bother telling them that it wasn't me. I simply sat there and kind of, gathered the information. Unfortunately, Darcy saw me speaking to the girls and confronted me about it. And I told her that they had approached me and were confusing me with someone else. She was still serious towards me and said that she was hoping I was being honest, but it was difficult because rumors were spreading around. I knew she was right about the rumors. Many people, apart from Gary and the girls, all of a sudden just spoke to me and claimed that they had seen me somewhere. My friends and I used to joke that I must have had a doppelganger, but for Darcy, it was getting harder and harder to believe. The same day after school, Darcy had planned to take me home, although this time she was very different. She seemed upset, and I asked her what was wrong, but instead of an answer, all I got was a slap. I was so confused. What the fuck? I told her. I mean, what the fuck was that even for? And at that moment, she pulled out her cell phone and showed me a picture. In the picture, there were 3 people. The girls who talked to me earlier, and a guy who looked just like me. He was absolutely identical. He had the same face, the same hair, and even similar clothes. I didn't know what to say. I mean, I had no idea who this individual was, or if this was some coincidence or not. But I didn't have time to explain. Darcy broke up with me, and called me a liar, and just got back in her car and drove off. I followed her through the parking lot, trying to explain it was not me, but it was too late. She just drove away. So, I decided to search on Instagram and Facebook and all other social media where I could find the people who claimed they had seen me or spent time with me. And after a lot of research, I was speechless. Many people had posted pictures with that guy who looked just like me, and had even commented it was me. Now I decided not to tell my parents because I didn't want them to freak out. But I did show my sister the pictures, and even she had a hard time believing it wasn't me. So my friends and I had been joking about doppelgangers, but I never imagined that he was going to be pretty much my clone. I looked online for information about doppelgangers, and something caught my attention. And this is what it was. Doppelgangers are often associated as harbingers of bad luck. And come to think of it, all these bad and weird things started happening after people started seeing my double. The following day after school, I spoke to Michelle about what had happened. She was the only one who I could now trust. And since Darcy was mad at me and Matt wasn't the most serious person to help me with this, thankfully, she believed me that the one in the pictures wasn't me. She helped me the whole day, and we even had a plan in order to meet this person. And at 3 p.m. we parted different ways. And that's the last time I saw Michelle. 2 days later, as I went to my social studies class, I noticed 2 strange things. First, Michelle wasn't there. And second, once the bell rang, our teacher entered the room with the police. The police officers told us Michelle never made it home the other day, and asked us if we knew something about it. I didn't tell the police anything that day because I didn't have anything to say, and I spent the rest of the day feeling terrible and wondering what had happened to her. and unexpectedly the same day, I had an answer. As I was walking home in the rain, I started feeling as if I was being followed, but this time, not by a car. I tried to catch a glimpse more than once, but the rain and how dark it was made things difficult. As I did before, I tried to cut my way using a shortcut, and the person behind me did the same. At this point, I stopped walking and looked to see who it was. And imagine the infinite surprise I had when I saw him. The other me. He was less than 10 steps away from me, wearing almost the same outfit as me. I was so freaked out I felt weak. It was like a bad illusion. It felt as if I was looking into a mirror. I yelled at him, "Who are you?" But he just stood there silently and gave me a weird smirk. "Are you following me?" I asked him. And that's when he quickly put his hand in his denim jacket and took a knife out of his pocket. We looked at each other and we both knew what to do. I tried to run away, but he was equally as fast. He tried to stab me, but all the layers of clothes I was wearing helped me, or at least that's what I thought. I punched him as he tried to fight back with the knife until eventually I managed to punch him harder, so he dropped the knife and I quickly grabbed it. Once he saw me with it, he ran away. I wanted to follow him, but decided the best was just to go home and call for help. I decided to take the knife with me as proof. Sadly, when I got home, I didn't even get a chance to get help. The police were already there with my sister, who was on the floor crying and totally disturbed. There was also an ambulance parked outside my house. I ran towards my sister and asked her what happened, but she didn't even look at me. And at that moment, I noticed the officers were the same ones I had seen at school. The ones who told us about Michelle. They told me to give them my backpack, and I did, forgetting I had the knife in there. And they, of course, found it. Crap. It's not what it looks like. It's all I could say before they told me I was detained as a suspect of the murder of Michelle. At that moment, I saw a group of police officers taking out a bag from my house, just like you see in the movies. At that time, it was clear to me what had happened. My doppelganger had framed me, and I desperately tried to explain to the police what had happened, but they didn't believe me. And who would have? I sounded mad, and so did the story. I was taken into custody where I was questioned, and told them what had happened and everything that I knew. At first they seemed hesitant, but once they saw my jacket had blood where I told them I was hurt, they took me to a doctor who examined me. I hadn't even noticed my double had actually managed to cut me in the back. I was seen by a doctor and by a psychiatrist, and after I finished talking to them, the officers came for me and told me to go with them somewhere. I was so worried, and it was already late. I thought they were going to put me in a cell or take me to jail, but they took me to a room and asked me to identify the person who attacked me with the knife. And there he was, my double. I identified him in front of the police, and then I was taken to a different room where the police explained to me and my lawyer what had happened. My double, in fact, tried to frame me. He was the one who called the police right after he attacked me. He called them saying that I had killed Michelle and her body was hidden in my room. And when the police went there, well, they found her. She was in that bag that they carried out. They also confirmed that the knife belonged to him because he owned a large collection of knives. He became the prime suspect of Michelle's murder investigation. I cooperated with the police, telling them every odd detail that had happened in the last few months, and after telling them everything, I was allowed to go home. My parents, my sister, Darcy, and Matt were outside waiting for me, just feeling truly sorry about everything. The police kept investigating by looking at the footage of places my double visited, pretending to be me, analyzing DNA and other stuff. And a day after capturing him, they found out that he was in fact the murderer and had put the body inside my house a day after he killed Michelle. They also found my bike in his house, and now everybody knew the truth to the story. The question was, why did he do all that, pretending to be me and killing my friend? He did not cooperate telling the police why, but he requested to tell me. And now, I had forgotten about it, but a couple of years ago, I joined this website that helps you find your lookalike. I remember joining the place, but not finding any matches. Well, apparently, 3.5 months ago, my lookalike found me. And ever since, he started lurking online finding information about me, such as the places I frequented back in the day, and decided it was much more fun to live like me. He started stalking other people from college as well. And with time, he decided that I had it too good. I had everything he didn't have: friends, girlfriend, and education, so he wanted to take it all away from me. I'm still in shock about his confession and all the things he did. I don't even know what to say. And the only thing I can say is that I'm glad his plan didn't work. And sadly, it's too late for Michelle, but not too late for me. If only I could change things, maybe that psycho wouldn't have found us. But sometimes it's better not to look for certain things. You never know what you're going to find, or what's going to find you.